stuff. So one of the sort of themes I want for this interview to make it different, because obviously people have interviewed you hundreds and hundreds of times, but the thing is they haven't known you, they weren't there for all your careers. So knowing some of the things behind the scenes, I actually want to not just get into some of the things that happened, but like where your head was at, where you were coming from. So one of the things I thought would be very interesting to fans is like they might not understand. Let me explain it this way, right? Basically, when we did that episode you were talking about, the one where it was like the review of 2020 for PGL, and we talked very briefly on it, obviously about, where's the Swedish scene at, where the next players, and me and you, because we're from 1.6, we sort of rapped about the fact that, there isn't the same grassroots scene, and, it also looks like players don't really like live and die to try and be in Fnatic and then be a pro player, it's like, to them, if you can be a pro streamer or you can play a different game, maybe they play League of Legends or something, there's a lot of distractions, basically. Basically, I would describe it like this. The reason why I've always thought people connected with you, get right, on a level that is different to even some other very good pros, is because basically, if you didn't have the skills to be get right, you would still be a player of CS, in my opinion. Like, you're one of those people where you're like a nerd, you love CS. Like, I would describe it like this way. Someone like, the famous examples would be like Forrest, Bialy. The reason these people always get criticised for playing other games is, what they love is games. Like, they just love to play games, and so they like to just have fun and play different games. You're one of those guys where, I know even from the early days, you were like all in on CS, right? It was like, it really was a dream. I know everyone always says that once they get to the top, but like you said, for years, you were really trying. We wanted to be in SK or Fnatic or whoever the best team, or NIP, whatever it was. Like, what was the early period like before we knew the name get right? Like, were you part of the scene where you would go to the LAN parties? Were you grinding on the semi-pro gathers and stuff? Like, how did you kind of like come around in that sense? Because from the moment I met you, you actually, even before you win the championship, you already had like that mentality of like, I'm all in on CS pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Actually, I think Sonic mentioned it in my news releasing, like, I'm not competing anymore. And I'm actually going to put it up here.
Where he said you were like a stand-in at some Danish LAN or something. I think
exactly.
Said,
yeah, like, I think that was my mentality. That shows up. Like, back in the days, you couldn't basically make a living on playing. Like, not at all. Like, I was lucky enough that I was, born in a way where the age wasn't matter that much, because I was still living at home, so I have I have safety in a way, and I can focus on playing a lot, and I have great parents that took care of me. And then the more longer the years went by, I understood how much my father actually cared about my career and all that kind of stuff, and I didn't understand it at the beginning, for example. But anyway, that was my pure mentality of CS. Like, surely I played a lot of other games, everyone did. Like, that's a myth that people think, you have to always play one game, like all the time. I think it's good to have a balance, but not in a balance where it's like you're gonna be playing, let's say, 8 hours of CS and then 8 hours of Dota, for example. I don't really like that. I'm not really following suit. That's not who I am. Like, I would see, surely 4 hours of Dota, it's fine, and then put 8 hours of CS, for example. Sure, why not? Do that if you want to. That's fine by me, if you ask me. But when it comes to the point when it feels like you're playing more the other game than the CS that you're professionally in, or like the game you're professionally in, then we have a little bit debate. Like, that's the different. Like, that's my opinion at the end of the day. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not. I don't know. Like, that's who I am as a person. But when you go back in the days, like, I was all in on CS. Yes, I were, and I played other games, but not too much. I always got bored with it. Played for a couple hours, then I was like, CS is more fun. I played die hard CS, like, completely to a level that was like, I didn't basically, like, I wasn't a person or a live person, if you ask me. Like, I lived and breathed the game. Like, basically, when I woke up, drank water, sat on a computer for 6 hours before eating, ate a little bit, played even more, till like in the morning, went to bed, and did the same thing all over again. Like, that's what I did. And that's how I looked on how to become better and better for each day, like. And surely playing is just another part, because I was also one of the first one to analyzing demos before everyone else did. I know the Danish guys were very early with that, but as a Swedish person, we're going always with this mentality of, you're just better individually and you win the games with that. And we have great communication and great team play. Tactics, so it works. Like, we believed in the tactics. Like, that's also the mentality that we're very strong on. Like, you have to believe what your game leader was saying, even though if it was the worst idea you think personally, if you believed in it, it's gonna work. That's how the mentality worked. But the great strength I think I brought into a lot of people in my early years were that I analyzed a lot of demos, like POVs, demos, and all that kind of stuff. This is way before you can go to YouTube and watch the demos.
Yes.
So I downloaded them, watched them through, what was it, HLSW or something? I think that was the search engine for playing games and also looking for demos. But this didn't matter that you can fast forward and all that kind of stuff. So I set for like 40.
Right, you were just playing it through.
Yeah. And when I missed something, like, okay, I missed something, I wrote down the time on a single paper next to me, looked through the demo still, and wrote it down again if there was more, closed it down, restarted again, and waited through that moment.
Okay.
So I was nuts in that way. Like, that's just like, why did he do that? So, like, it is good in a way that CS 1.6 didn't count the hours, because maybe it's a bold statement of mine to say, but I think
you'd
I
have
had
the most
hours. Yeah,
yes,
I probably had
sure.
the most. Like, I know when they started, I had 120 at least per 2 weeks, 120 per least per week, like always, or even more. That's like, I think I even like ended up like 180 some tournaments. That's sort of pure with playing and also analyzing, but in the same time, that's just who I were. You know, like I lived and breathed the game. Also, like in another fact, you know, like if you wanted to show yourself out there, it was like going to tournaments. Okay, we didn't have a tournament for a month in Sweden. When you're a nobody, what do? You go to Denmark, for example. You play their tournaments, and I did that. You know, I traveled all the way from Stockholm with a car. Had like 4 CRT monitors in the back with a friend of mine. Went when it was like snow outside. We had to sleep in a car, sleep on the floor. Like barely had money to eat during the whole tournament. And if we were lucky enough, we could have, you know, won something on the land tournament, like, you know, their own drinks there or
Sure.
whatever, so you can get an extra boost of energy or whatever, you know. But that's how we were, you know, like I lived and breathed the game. So if we didn't win the tournament or come top 3 or something, I wouldn't come home with any money. Like that's how we were, you know. Like it's not like nowadays where everyone is like basically attending a tournament, they get some sort of money. Now it's like in this time period was like top 3 only.
Yes.
And the prize money was way different as well. So it's like, you know, it was like 85% of the prize pool money was first place as well.
Yes.
So if you came third, that could be like 100 euros or stuff, like 200 euros maximum. Like, think about it, if you travel from Stockholm to Denmark, taking the boats and all that kind of stuff, like, and even like pay for the bridge, Öresundsbron, I don't know the English word for it, the bridge there. From,
the toll or whatever, yeah, to go over, yeah, sure.
That cost money as well,
yeah.
And, you know, we didn't have hotel rooms and all that kind of stuff to, you know, do that things, you know, like, it was tough, but I lived and breathed the game. So it was fun when you like went to Denmark, because they also had a little bit extra higher price money because we're Swedish. So the, you know, the value of the money is a little bit higher.
Ah, right. Yes.
So we had enough money to buy the boat ride back instead of going the bridge, because it was cheaper. So it was like nice, relaxing time to sit in the boat to go way back for like 2-3 hours or what it was. It was like, you know, that was basically the winning for us. At least how I remember it, you know, like. And that was nothing fancy when you think about it. It was just a traditional boat trip, nothing else. But that was like our, you know, we actually did pretty well. Come second year, lost against the MTW guys back in the days, like Sonic and Wimp and et cetera, you know, like that was like a huge achievement for the Swedish guys, you know, because we travel all the way from Sweden to Denmark and play against all the Danish teams and even German teams, you know. But like, that's where the mentality were, at least for me. And I think it was for a lot of people around that time period. Like, if you wanted to attend tournaments, you pay from your own pocket. And if you didn't have money, you either borrow from a friend, or Michael won an online tournament, sold the mouse pad you won, if you even got the mouse pad. And how much is the mouse pad worth? Like $20?
Not much. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, it's not much money, you know? And sometimes you were fortunate enough to get some sponsor money for the tickets to the LAN. And that would be like, let's say like 500 euros or something like that for the whole team. That's the whole budget. Like, you're paying the tickets, but you're still representing this organization name, and you're still living on the floor, and you're still paying for everything else, you know, like it was a completely different mentality and how things were back in the days, if you ask me. And I think it was for a lot of people around the scene. Like, I think it was just a wonderful thing to be a part of it, because I think it's similar for you. You know, you came from the journalist side to do things in esports, or gaming, because we didn't say esports in the beginning, it's like gaming. And that's a very special work to have, because like you were writing articles and you were very noticed and famous for, you know, doing such a long ones.
Yes.
And that time period when it was like starting to switch over to people not really, they don't want to read those long ones anymore. They wanted to read like maybe the small ones, the most important thing. Maybe this could be the letters you're writing out. That's the most important thing. But you wrote in such a big, long, detailed ones, which were amazing for me because I loved them. But for other people, they were like, you know, maybe Thorin can, you know, cut it down a little bit, you know. And I think people should be more appreciative of that in that time period, because there weren't many people around that time period like you and me and the other people, you know.
Sure.
Nowadays we have, what is it? Not millions, that's overreaction, but a couple of thousand different journalists that are doing great work.
Yeah, a lot of people for sure, yeah.
That things, and we have hundreds of thousands of people as professional in different, you know, games, fields, and all that kind of stuff around it. That's just beautiful to see, you know, and being a part of it and being one of those people in the beginning. I take pride to that, to be honest.
Sure.